Xevious Movie. This film was a collaboration between Namco and some film company called Groove Corporation in 2002. Obviously, it's based on the arcade game of the same name, with various story elements added. In addition to this, it was animated in CG. Since Xevious never really had much of a story to begin with, Groove took liberties in creating their own. The film was actually received very poorly upon release, with viewers citing the terrible animation quality and lackluster story and dialogue as reasons why. However, those are also most likely the reasons why the film is lost today. The film was released in the summer of 2002, and after that, the film was pretty much buried due to poor reception. There were no home media releases of this film, although it's theorized that Bandai Namco may have a copy of the film, as a clip was used in a retrospective uploaded to their official YouTube channel. Apple Pie. Wow, episode 2 seems like ages ago. That fact seems even weirder when you find out that Apple Pie, a sitcom I talked about in episode 2, has had barely anything found since that video was made. For those that haven't seen episode 2, Apple Pie was a sitcom from 1978 starring Rue McClanahan, who would go on to be one of the main characters in The Golden Girls, and that was her biggest role. Rue's character, named Ginger Nell, puts out an ad in the newspaper after moving to Kansas City during the Great Depression. Through this ad, she's basically able to form a makeshift family, and the show is about the wacky scenarios they find themselves in. During my original segment about this show, there were 0 found episodes of the show, and that's still how it is today. The only thing that's been found in the nearly 21 months since is a short clip.
There's the Lasky twins now. Come in, Trudy.
Hi, Ginger Nell. Mind if we get started fast? My boyfriend Cliff's coming here to pick me up. We're going out dancing.
Well, as a matter of fact, we can do you both at the same time. I have a new helper, girls. Meet Eduardo.
How are you, Trudy? Judy, why don't you just sit right here in my chair and I'll get you out in plenty of time for your date.
I don't have a date. Judy never has any dates. Men just don't find her very attractive.
Crash Test Dummies. This was a show that aired in Britain in 2007. The premise was 2 guys basically trying to destroy things, and that's it. Much like a simpler version of Destroy Build Destroy, except much more obscure. The show didn't last long, and due to this, networks don't often put much effort into trying to preserve shows like that. After the show's cancellation, there were very few, if any, reruns. Today, all that survives is a couple of episodes and a few short clips on YouTube. More full episodes did exist on YouTube at one point, though there were issues, such as audio problems and narration added to the episodes by the uploader. Even still, those full episodes haven't survived, as the channel that uploaded them was terminated. Boone. This show, in addition to having a name that's very sentimental to me, was a drama that aired on NBC in the early 80s. The show revolves around a teenager who goes to Nashville in hopes of becoming a hit musician. As part of the hook, every episode included 2 original music numbers, 1 country and 1 rock and roll. The show was not successful by any measure, as its time slot was in heavy competition with other, more popular dramas on at the time. There was never a home media release due to the commercial failure of the show, and as a result, no footage from any episode has survived today. At one point, the intro was available, but has since become lost again, meaning that this photo is all that's survived.
What would happen if every human being on Earth disappeared?
Life After People. Life After People was a documentary series that aired in the late 2000s. The series centers around the questions of what would happen to famous landmarks after humans went extinct. The series enlisted many artists to make their own renditions of these landmarks for the show, but in fact, a lot of this art and animation is inaccessible today, as the artists have only slowly released some of their work on an individual basis. A lot of this art was just edited versions of pre-existing photos, and so, as well as some of the individual art is lost, so too are many of the originals the art was created from. it's estimated that only about a quarter of the uncut photos and animation is out there today.
Welcome to Nicktropolis. Nicktropolis is a deep, persistent game world that offers kids a place to create, collect, and connect.
Nicktropolis. This was a Nickelodeon MMO that launched in 2007. It contained many of the standard MMO traits, such as customizable characters, a hub world, playable minigames, and chat features. If any of that at all sounds familiar, it's because Nicktropolis was rebranded into The Club in 2010, which was something I talked about close to a year ago in episode 13. There does exist some footage of the original game online, though obviously the actual game itself is not playable. Though, as some assets have leaked, one user actually recreated their own version of the game with the assets that were available. But obviously this comes nowhere close to the actual game being found. Wheel 2000. Wheel 2000 was a children's version of Wheel of Fortune that aired in the late 90s. It aired around the same time as Jep, which was a similar children's version of Jeopardy hosted by Bob Bergen, aka the voice of Porky Pig. We may get to that in a future episode, but back to the main topic at hand, Wheel 2000. The rules are the same as regular Wheel of Fortune, except for these changes. Contestants have a choice of 3 categories, which is a feature Wheel of Fortune later added but did not have at the time of Wheel 2000 airing. Some of the wedges changed as well, with various extra challenges added to the $250 value. Players could earn extra letters from these challenges or lose a turn if they did not earn any. As well as this, the Bankrupt and Lose a Turn wedges got new names. The show was short-lived, and past 1998 only sparingly got rerun on other channels. Due to this, and the show's general obscurity, only just over half the show is available today. Super Mario Attack. While Super Mario World is one of the most iconic video games ever made, there was once an arcade version exclusive to Japan that oddly released around the time Super Mario 64 released over there. Strangely, the game was not developed by Nintendo, and was instead developed by a company called Banpresto, which at this point has been defunct for over a decade. The gameplay involved Cape Mario landing on different valued medals. The player could then gamble for a higher score by opting to double or triple their points. Obviously, despite the similar assets, the actual gameplay was not very similar to Super Mario World. Arcade cabinets of this are extremely difficult to find, and as of now, no ROMs have been dumped. One vs 100 Xbox Live Edition. Based on the game show of the same name, 1 vs 100 was a free-to-play game as long as the user had an Xbox Live Gold membership. The player could choose to be a single contestant or the other 100 players. The prizes for winning were actual Microsoft points, which could actually be spent to improve your Xbox Live account. The game wasn't played enough when it was around to justify the cost of maintaining it. As a result, the game is no longer playable, after being discontinued in 2009. While a pre-release version has been leaked, the actual game is still lost, though the soundtrack to the game is still out there.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd planned to speak to you tonight to report on the State of the Union. But the events of earlier today have led me to change those plans. Today is a day for mourning and remembering. Nancy and I are pained to the core by the tragedy of the Shuttle Challenger. We know we share this pain with all of the people of our country.
1986 State of the Union Address, original version. The 1986 State of the Union Address isn't necessarily lost. What is lost is supposedly its original version, which isn't even confirmed to exist. The 1986 State of the Union was to originally be given on the same day as the Challenger launch. Due to the disaster that ensued on that day, President Reagan made a separate address that day, and the State of the Union address was delayed. It's theorized that part of the address was going to talk specifically to the crew who worked on Challenger, but this obviously never happened due to the disaster. It's unknown if this was the plan for the original version, and thus, if it was the original plan, if a copy of the original transcript exists. If that copy does exist, it's highly unlikely that it will leak.